Welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be sitting down with Cody Roswick. He's going to share some awesome perch fishing tips, and we're going to jump right into the content right now.
There, that's a nice perch. So there we are, North Dakota's gold right there. What we're using here today is a buckshot rattle spoon with a perch eye, and we're going to keep this fish, and I'll do a little demonstration on how I take a perch eye off, and then how I hook it on the treble as well. So here we got a really nice perch, probably 11 incher, maybe a little 11 and a half. So I take a perch like this and I squeeze the gills with my left hand, then I typically use my right thumb and I push down right below the eyeball. You see how I'm pushing down and the eyeball protrudes? And I know it's a little gruesome, but then I push that thumbnail underneath the eyeball and I just roll that eye out of that perch. And then you pluck the entire eyeball out whole, and we're gonna keep this perch today, so it's okay to do this. In North Dakota, it's legal to use perch eyes. That's one nice little advantage we have, and the reason I like to use them is the perch eat them. Perch are cannibals, they eat each other. And on top of that, we'll replace this eyeball here. They're very durable. Perch eyes are very durable. They have a tough little skin, and they stay on the hook real well. And when you're catching fish after fish, it's nice not having to rebait. So I grab the eyeball like so, and instead of going right through the middle of it, I recommend is just piercing the side of the perch eye. You go through the skin in the side and then back out. And by doing that, it leaves that gelatin substance that's in the eyeball in there, and it just slowly oozes out. You get through that tough skin so it stays on the hook real well. And then you've got bait for hours at times. So, little perch eye trick. They're easy to pluck. Just use your thumb. They make a perch eye tool as well, or somebody does. I don't know what brand it is. And but your thumb works pretty well for taking perch eyes out and then using them for bait. You got to watch that it's legal where you do this, but in North Dakota it is legal.
Next up, Cody's going to run through a few of his go-to favorite baits for catching perch.
I thought I'd take a couple minutes and I'd talk briefly about all the different baits I use for ice fishing. I do lots of ice fishing all winter, and to narrow it down, some of the go-to ice baits that I use are 16th ounce tungsten jigs and 16th ounce spoons. I typically start the day or start the year with little 16th ounce spoons, buckshot rattle spoon, the forage minnow spoon, and the eyeball spoon are dynamite. Those are my go-to spoons. And then I also really like 16th ounce tungsten jigs as well, especially if the fish are a little finicky. You switch to spikes and maggots. If you're marking fish and not catching them, that's when I'll switch to the small tungsten jigs. And Northland came out with a tungsten gill getter and the mud bugs, and they're fantastic little jigs. Small little profile. The fish eat them up. There, I got a fish on. The fish eat them without hesitation. We're on a small little body of water catching fish after fish here, and you can see I got a pretty good sized buckshot rattle spoon with a couple perch eyes. But you know, just fish like this are real common out here. We usually fish perch during the day, and then walleyes either morning or evening is typically my average day on the ice. And we've got some northern pike, we got some crappies, we got some options. We do catch a variety of fish, but perch and walleyes is majority of what we're chasing day in and day out. And you gotta love these perch. They bite during the day. A lot of times we're in some dirtier water, and they're real cooperative during the middle of the day, where the walleyes are typically morning and evening. So it's a nice variety. It keeps you on action most of the day, and you can catch a lot of fish. Everybody loves to eat fish, especially these perch. They grow fast. They're very good to eat. You don't have to feel too bad about keeping a nice mess of perch out here, because they're very prolific. They grow fast. There's lots of food. You know, if you keep 10-15 perch, that's a great meal for a small family. So anyways, back to the baits. Tungsten jigs, small 16th ounce spoons, and then a spattering of Northland puppet minnows, little lipless crankbaits. Sometimes I'll use a lipless crankbait just to attract fish, especially these schools of perch. Just letting a rattle bait down there, and you rip it a few times and see if anything shows up, because if fish are, you know, 20-50 feet away, they'll hear that the rattles, and they'll feel that vibration from a long ways away. So sometimes that rattle bait is just a good search tool. You rip, you know, drop it down, rip it a couple times, see if you can get a few perch to come in and catch them, you know, and then drop your tungsten jigs or small spoons down there to actually catch them. But that in a nutshell is my go-to presentation. I consider it a real bait delivery system. Both perch and walleyes, they like a little scent, they like a little meat on their spoons and small jigs. So, you know, you just want something that gets down there fast, makes a little commotions, got good flash, and the fish, you know, as far as color goes, I like whites, chartreuse, you know, glow colors help in this dirty or dingy water, but I'm not real hung up on color. You know, many times in my tenure in the fishing industry, I've been on lots of good bites, and when they're biting, color really doesn't make a difference. But you know, just the tried and true colors is what I prefer and what I go with. Natural colors. Actually, black is a really good color for perch in the winter time, because it mimics a lot of little bugs and invertebrates down there. So again, not hung up on color so much as I am the profile, the flash, the rattle, and then just experiment throughout the day. If fish are a little finicky, then downsize and use little tungsten jigs and see if that can get them to go. And when you get a nice little school of perch down there, the faster you get down there, the more you'll catch. So just keep that in mind. That's a real good way to trigger fish, is just fish with a buddy, fish with some friends. You know, you get a school of perch in, you can really make hay on them for a while before they leave you. So competition's good, activity's good down there. It attracts, you know, it feeds on itself. If you get some perch going, or you got fish flying around down there, it just attracts more fish from a distance. So
now Cody has a bunch of experience fishing in the Dakotas where he lives and guides, but he also has a lot of experience fishing in Minnesota as well. So he's gonna break down some of the idiosyncrasies that differentiate Dakota perch fishing and some of the more traditional perch fishing that some of you might be familiar with if you happen to live in Minnesota or Wisconsin.
In Minnesota, the majority of the fish you catch are either in the basin or on the weed line. You know, they're either weed perch or they're out in the basin. Mm-hmm. And they're typically smaller because they just don't have the food sources. So they don't grow, you know, they just don't grow to that size real, you know. And there's exceptions, you know, Leech Lake can grow some nice perch. That, and I think it's predator prey too. Like out here, the only thing that lives in this body of water is probably perch, unless somebody dumped a few walleyes in here. Mm-hmm. So they, you know, that perch like that is the dominant.
Are a lot of these lakes stocked with the perch then? Yeah,
the state has done a real good job of dumping perch in a lot of these little lakes. They'll trap and transport, because there's a lot of lakes that are overrun with small perch, and they'll trap a couple 100 pounds and then bring them over to a lake like this if they know it needs it, and dump them in.
Like tactically, how is it different, like what you're doing here versus the time you spent in Minnesota fishing for perch? And
tactics are the same for the most part. You know, small walleye tackle, fish aggressively, and you know, see if you can find them.
Yeah.
You know, once you find them, you can catch them usually. But the difference is that these fish slough perch they're typically a little more aggressive. They're in shallower water. It's nice because they're easy to release. They're not too deep. You get in the deep bodies of water, or the Devil's Lake Basin, you know, Devil's Lake, Stump Lake. Those fish are really well fed. They're almost like a separate subspecies because they're not as easy to catch, but they run, you know, they're well fed, so they run nice size a lot of times, but they require a lot more finesse in order to catch them. They're just so well fed, I think, that they're finicky.
Yeah, that makes sense. And a bigger system like that, they're not getting fished out, so it's probably more consistent.
Yeah, especially you get into mid to late winter, then, you know, or anytime past New Year's, then I'm fishing usually bigger waters where the fish are they're more cool. I wouldn't say that they're more cooperative. They're consistent catches.
Yeah.
You know, I can go out and catch 30, 40, 50 perch.
And you said like a lot of these smaller, because a lot of the lakes that you're fishing in North Dakota are smaller slough lakes, and they get fished out a little bit more often. So maybe later in the season you might find some bigger fish in those bigger lakes, whereas early season.
Yeah, there's that, and there's I think a lot of times these smaller bodies of water, like the oxygen levels go down. For some reason, these lakes just slow down. You know, it's early and late, they're good, and then I think just the deep cold sets in, and these fish just go lay on the bottom and they don't move much come midwinter. It's the only thing I can think of, because you'll come out here, if you come out here at the end of January, you won't have near the action that you just experienced.
Next up, Cody's gonna share a few tips on presentation that'll help you catch a few more perch.
I really think it's beneficial to fish up off the bottom a couple feet, especially when you're trying to attract fish to your hole. If you're not seeing fish down there, you're better off, in my opinion, going a couple feet off the bottom and have a few large strokes in your presentation. You know, you can pound that spoon where it gets that good vibration going, but then do some high lifts every once in a while and just try to attract fish to your hole. By fishing up off the bottom, especially for perch, you'll attract more fish from a distance. You know, they'll see and feel that vibration from a lot longer distance if you stay higher in the water column. And then once you get a little flurry of fish down there, just picking them off the top of the school it just keeps more fish active down there for a longer period of time, so you can potentially get your limit twice as fast. If you're constantly fishing a couple inches off the bottom, kind of pounding the bottom, sometimes they get bored with you. You'll especially see this in the Devil's Lake and the Devil's Lake Basin, Stump Lake, Devil's Lake, all over. Those fish, for whatever reason, are a little more picky, and they're really well fed, so they're a little more lethargic. So you really have to attract those fish from a distance, and you try to get, it's really kind of a statistical anomaly. The more fish you can get down there, the more you're going to catch. So fish off the bottom a little ways, especially when you're not seeing fish, because it'll attract more fish to your hole. You'll get a little flurry of fish down there, and then you can zip down, stay above them, and it'll just keep the level of excitement down there going for a longer period of time. It's a great little tip. Trust me, it really does work. It works with walleyes too. If you get in a situation where there's quite a few walleyes in an area, fish up above the bottom a couple feet. And you know, it really depends on the body of water. If you're fishing 40, 50 feet, there, I got a perch on here. That's where I see it a lot of times. Here, it's hung up. There we go. But we catch a lot of fish this way. Keep your baits high off the bottom. Get those fish attracted to your hole, and you can potentially catch a lot more fish a lot faster that way. Buckshot, rattle spoon, perch. North Dakota gold right there.
All right, that's about all we got for you in this video. Hopefully you were able to pick up a few tips that'll help you catch more perch this winter. If you enjoyed this video and you learned something, make sure to hit that little red subscribe button because we have a lot more content coming, and we will see you in the next one.